Hey guys, so I wanted to tell you a little story. We have to travel back to the year of 2006, 2007. Around that time I would have been a freshman in high school, and I remember getting together with a couple of my friends, and one of them introduced us to this new game called Guitar Hero 2. Now at the time we were fans of the DDR games, Dance Dance Revolution. Not like hardcore fans, but we enjoyed them. They were a lot of fun to play. So it seemed like Guitar Hero was like a different version of that was perfectly crafted for me because I loved guitar and I liked rock music, so it just made sense. But I remember we just stayed up late, like all night playing that game, and it was so fun. And I remember we would take turns and I was always the third one to play. Every time I played I would always get an encore. And we just thought I was like really good or something, but really that's just the way the game was set up. You'd play 3 songs, and then the third song you'd get an encore, and then unlock the next venue. And shortly after that, it just seemed like all my friends were getting Guitar Hero, and it just exploded. It was like really popular. Now again, I was a high school student. I didn't really have much money, and it was pretty expensive to get the game and the controller, but my friend was kind enough to let me borrow his. So I remember taking it home and playing through. Now at this time, I wasn't really that big of a fan of lead guitar or like solos or anything like that. I remember there was this kid I knew who it seemed like all he did was just like shred, but I never heard any of that in context with the music, so it always just sounded like a bunch of random notes to me. And I remember just being really annoyed by it. In my head I would just think, dude, just play like a song, quit noodling around with these random notes. So that was kind of my first impression of lead guitar. And then there was another time where I watched a skate video called Almost Round 3. And on the team there's a skater named Greg Letska who, in his skate part, he's skating to the song All Along the Watchtower. Now I know this will sound like blasphemy to some people, but the first time I heard that song, I was watching it on this little square TV with only 2 inputs. It had a video input and 1 audio input, so it wasn't even stereo. And it had these little speakers. So in between the verses, when Jimi Hendrix is playing the solos, all I could really hear was the lead guitar and the drums. You couldn't really hear the bass or any kind of context underneath of it. And it just, to me, I thought it was annoying, Both of those things kind of just left this impression on me that shredders are really annoying, lead guitar stinks. But what happened was, when I was playing Guitar Hero, the game forces you to play the guitar part. And so for the first time ever, I was able to hear it in context with the bass and the drums and the rhythm guitar. And I remember thinking, whoa, this actually sounds really cool. Those games really brought a lot of clarity to the roles of those instruments. It gave me an understanding of what the drums do and what the bass does. I remember around that time my brother-in-law asked me to join the praise band at our church, and he wanted me to play lead guitar. And I remember thinking, I don't know how to play lead guitar, and I'm not really that good. And he's like, no, you'll be fine. He's like, here, let me show you kind of a few things to get you started. And so he kind of gave me a few tricks. I remember I would go to the Guitar Hero games and kind of like sort of listen to what the guitar parts were doing and kind of make up something that would fit with the songs we were playing at church. Plus the games exposed me to a lot of different styles of music. It sort of taught me different kinds of rhythm and how to create sort of different feelings of intensity, and I started applying all this stuff to my songwriting and my guitar playing. Well, my parents totally noticed. I remember showing them the game and they just thought it was the neatest thing, it was really cool. But even more so, they were very supportive of me as a musician, and they noticed that ever since I started playing this game that my guitar abilities in real life were getting better. And so my mom took me to Sam's Club one day and bought me the whole set, with the guitar and the game, and it was just awesome. And I don't know, I just love her doing that, Now at the time, I could only play on medium difficulty, but for the difficult sections in songs, there's a practice mode. And so I remember thinking, I wonder if I went to expert mode and I went to the practice mode, if I could slow it down and pick out the notes and actually find them on the real guitar. So that's what I did. I would play the first few notes, pause the game, put down the toy guitar, pick up the real guitar, and try to find those notes. And I actually learned quite a few songs from Guitar Hero using that method. I remember one year at summer camp, it must have been 2007 or 2008, at the campground that I went to, there was a place in the center called the Canteen, and you could get snacks there. It was built on this hill, and so it kind of would branch out, and there was this sort of balcony where you could eat. There were picnic tables and stuff, and then underneath it was kind of a pavilion area with picnic tables, and that's where all the guitarists would hang out during free time. And so I went down there and I just started playing all these songs from Guitar Hero. And since the game was so popular, everyone knew these songs, and they're like, dude, I know that song. And I was like the coolest kid at camp. I was like a real Guitar Hero. And that's just something that I'll always remember. You know, that's kind of the only time in my life something like that has sort of happened where I was like really cool, you know. But eventually I did get good, and I could play on hard and expert difficulty. And I think playing at those speeds, you know, really helped me develop some coordination and dexterity. And especially like the speed picking sections, you used to just like go as fast as you could, but then I would kind of, in the practice mode, I realized, hey, this isn't just random picking, there's like a beat here, and I think, you know, all that stuff really carried over and really helped me out as a guitarist. And then eventually, you know, Rock Band came out, and that was just even cooler because you get to sort of get the band experience sort of in a small package, like in your living room. All that stuff was so inspiring to me, and I really think it helped shape who I am as a musician and as a songwriter. If any of you are fairly new guitarists, I really recommend checking out Guitar Hero or Rock Band. I think if you really pay attention to the instruments and what they're doing, and if you really try to mimic what you're doing in the game on the real guitar, I think you will see your music abilities improve. But anyway, I just wanted to share those stories. If you have any kind of stories or memories from Guitar Hero or Rock Band, please share them in the comments section below. Until next time.